Hello everyone, back tuning in to the first ENSO update of 2017. So through the year, we once a month we have a look at what's happening through the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean in terms of the ENSO region, which is the part of the equatorial Pacific that stretches from Peru through to Indonesia. And when we get warming of this area of the equatorial Pacific, we are going to El Nino. We have an El Nino event. And when we go to a cold event, it's called La Nina. And these events are naturally occurring cycles, and they're essentially the Earth's thermostat at work. So when you have an El Nino, you're like turning the thermostat up and releasing heat via the Pacific Ocean around the world. And when you get a La Nina, a cold event, you're sort of turning the thermostat down and cooling the Earth down via the Pacific Ocean. And these ocean cycles have an impact not just on, they're mainly southern hemisphere phenomena, so their main effects are felt in the Pacific Ocean, particularly in the southern part of the Pacific Ocean. They also affect America and the United States, but these events, they do affect the weather further afield as well, and they can have influences on the UK weather. So once a month we have a look at what's going on in the equatorial Pacific Ocean, and then when we get to the winter updates, which we begin in September, because the main effect of El Nino and La Nina is through the winter when it reaches its peak. So when we come to do winter updates in September, then we stop doing the ENSO updates and we sort of combine them with the winter updates. If you like, we sort of merge them all together in September. So from now through to September, we will be once a month having a look at what's going on in the equatorial Pacific Ocean in terms of ENSO, in terms of whether we're going into El Nino or La Nina, or ENSO neutral, which is when we're between the two states. So that's what we'll be doing for this video, having a look at the ENSO region, see what's going on. We haven't looked at this since we finished the winter updates at the start of December, when we issued winter forecasts. So it'll be interesting to see how things have developed over the past few weeks. Well, before we get on with that, just say about the ads. Just links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse, which is a click through links. You'll help us to pay website. Thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads. Say open up with content. If you give those a watch, you will be helping us to pay for our website as well. We're going to start off where we left off in with winter update. So we'll start off on the 1st of December, and this is the region of the Pacific Ocean that we're interested in. We've got Peru just here in South America, and then we've got Indonesia over here, and you see this blue area across the ocean. These are the sea surface temperature anomaly maps from NOAA, from NOAA in the United States. So that blue area is the signature of La Nina, the scenario that we had last year in 2016. So we started off with a super El Nino, one of the strongest recorded El Nino events ever, that faded through the middle part of last year. And in the second half of last year, we had a go at getting into a cold event, getting into La Nina. Very often after an El Nino, a warm event, you'll go into a La Nina, a cold event. We had a go at doing that in the second half of last year, but it didn't quite come off. But that is the signature of La Nina. Very, very weak La Nina indeed. So that's how we left things off when we finished the winter updates in December. So this is the latest situation. This is the latest sea surface temperature anomaly map for the world from NOAA, and again the region we're interested in is Peru just there, over towards Indonesia just there. Now you'll notice what's happened over the past few weeks since we finished looking at the ENSO region start of December. What's happened is that we've warmed up in the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean. So just here where we have blue colours at the beginning of December, we had cold sea surface temperature anomalies. Now the temperatures are starting to pick up. We do still have some colder sea surface temperature anomalies through this central part of the equatorial Pacific, so we've still got just about a signature for La Nina, but quite clearly it is fading compared to where we was. Again, reminded where we was at the start of December compared to where it was then. The signature of La Nina, which was already a very, very weak signature anyway, has faded. Now you expect that to happen because these events, whether they're El Nino or La Nina, they reach their peak around Christmas, and then after Christmas, through the remainder of the winter and into the spring, they tend to fade and lose their influence. So you'd expect that to be happening. But of course, it was such a weak La Nina signature anyway, but essentially we're moving back very quickly into an ENSO neutral type signal. Now, I was never terribly sure at the end of last year whether we was going to get the La Nina actually designated, because to get a La Nina designated, you have to meet some quite strict criteria, and it's the same for El Nino as well. You have to have the temperature anomaly at or below 0.5 degrees below average, and in terms of El Nino it would be the other way, so it has to be at or above 0.5 degrees above average. And that has to go on for 5 tri-monthly periods. So, because it was such a weak La Nina signature, I was never terribly sure whether we would get that designated. But I think we probably will. If we have a look at this, which is the cold and warm episodes by season map and grid from the Climate Prediction Centre, if we scroll down to our latest year, which of course is 2016, you'll see that we've got these coloured numbers here. So at the start of 2016, these coloured numbers are representing the El Nino. So the anomaly there, for example, for the first tri-monthly period of 2016 was 2.2 degrees above average, and then the second one was 2 degrees above average, and the third tri-monthly period of 2016 was 1.6 degrees above average, and so on it goes. Now, as we move through to the second half of the year, you'll notice very quickly what happened in 2016 is that we lost the signature for El Nino. We lost it there, and we went back to neutral through the middle part of the year, and so neutral. And then we start getting these minus numbers turning up. So, for example, that tri-monthly period there comes out at minus 0.3 degrees below average. Now, that wouldn't meet the threshold for a La Nina, because you have to be 0.5 degrees or lower colder than average. But the next tri-monthly period did do that. It went down to minus 0.6, and then the next tri-monthly period goes down to minus 0.8, and that's where we remain then for the next 2 tri-monthly periods. So we've had 4, so far we've had 4 tri-monthly periods coming out below minus 0.5 degrees below average. So all we've got to do is, in this box just here, which currently is empty, that is the box for the tri-monthly period of November to January. All we've got to do for that tri-monthly period is get a number that is at or lower minus 0.5 degrees. And if we do that, if we get a number in that box appearing next month, we'll know early next month, if we get a number in that box appearing that's at or below minus 0.5 degrees, then you will see these boxes, or these numbers, turning blue. And that will tell us that we have got a actual La Nina being designated by the World Meteorological Organization and by NOAA. And the last La Nina that we had was back here in 2011 and 2012. Again, you notice the blue numbers here in the boxes. Quite a weak La Nina, that one. Not as weak as the one we just had, but it was a fairly weak La Nina in 2011, 2012. That was our last sort of designated cold event. So we'll know early next month whether we have actually had a La Nina or whether we've fallen just short. I suspect it'll be quite close, but I think we probably will do it, actually. I think we probably will get a probably one of the weakest cold events on record, and we go back to 1950 with this. I haven't been through all the cold events or the warm events back to 1950, but I suspect it will be one of the weakest that we've ever recorded. But nevertheless, I think we'll just about meet the threshold, meet criteria of having had a weak La Nina. So that brings us up to where we are right now, and let's have a look at the Southern Oscillation Index next. So this is from the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia, and the SOI Index, Southern Oscillation Index, is an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere in the southern Pacific Ocean, from Darwin in Australia to Tahiti in the central part of the southern Pacific Ocean. Remember that with this, same as any other index, so it's the same as with the North Atlantic Oscillation and with the Arctic Oscillation, and probably the QBO, the quasi-biennial oscillation. All of these oscillations are just indexes that are reflecting what the atmosphere is doing. The index does not drive the atmosphere drives the index. You always have to remember that with any of these indexes that we use for sort of involved forecasting. So when the SOI is positive, that tells you that the atmosphere in the southern Pacific Ocean is reflecting a La Nina setup. When the SOI, Southern Oscillation Index, is negative, it tells you that the atmosphere is reflective of El Nino. It's reflecting El Nino setup. To get a real El Nino and La Nina, what you have to do is get the ocean and the atmosphere sort of coupling up with one another. They have to hook up, and when they do that, when they get into sync, then these events will really take off. That's what happened going back to 2015, when El Nino really took off in the second half of 2015. It happened because we got the atmosphere and the ocean in sync with one another, and so we developed into a very strong El Nino event, one of the strongest recorded El Nino events ever, 2015-2016. Now, at the start of January, the SOI was very reflective of La Nina. So here we are on the 1st of January with an SOI number coming out at 24.83. That tells you on the 1st of January, the atmosphere in the Southern Pacific Ocean was very much reflective of a La Nina type setup between Darwin and Tahiti. And so that would couple with the ocean, and you probably get through the central part of the Pacific Ocean anyway, you probably get some cooling of the ocean. Now, this positivity of the SOI continues through the 2nd, through the 3rd, through the 4th, with very positive numbers, 36.75, 29.54, and 23.18. If we'd had these kind of SOI numbers back around September, October, we really would have developed into a proper La Nina event. We'd have gone into a proper cold event, because the ocean and the atmosphere would have been in sync with one another, and that would have allowed all of the cold water that is at depth in the Pacific Ocean to come up and really produce quite a big La Nina event. What was actually happening through the latter part of last year is that we were getting, sometimes we were getting negative, positive numbers of the SOI, so La Nina reflective state in the Southern Ocean, but other times we were getting very negative numbers reflective of El Nino, and so the ocean and the atmosphere were fighting one another, and that stopped. It didn't allow La Nina to really take off. But if we'd been getting those kind of numbers within the SOI back up to the latter part of last year, we would have had a real proper moderate strong La Nina event. And if we come down to the latest, we see that, again, we've gone negative now with the SOI. So, for example, on the 12th here, we go down to -1. On the 13th of January, we go down to -3. And then in the last few days, we really have crashed the SOI. So on the 18th, we go down to -26. On the 19th, we go down to -33. On the 20th, we go down to -18. And the latest, on the 21st, we go down to -20. That is the atmosphere in the Pacific Ocean, Southern Pacific Ocean, being reflective of El Nino again. So, the start of January, we're reflecting La Nina, but into the middle part, in the second half of January, we're reflecting El Nino. This is what's been going on over the past few months. Essentially, the ocean, the Pacific, has wanted to produce a La Nina. The cold water has been there, but the atmosphere has never truly gone into a sustained period where it's reflecting a La Nina setup, and so we've never been able to bring that cold water up to the surface and really entrench it in and produce a La Nina event. This is still going on, but we're still getting these swings in the atmosphere between an El Nino setup and a La Nina setup. And while this is going on, you would expect that the La Nina signal, which is already very weak anyway, will continue to fade, as it always does, as we move out of winter and in towards spring. So essentially, we're still where we was last year in terms of the oceans and the atmosphere fighting with one another. All that's happening is because we've gone into the end of the winter, or going into the end of the winter, and heading up towards spring, is that the signature is fading anyway, as it always does. So what have we got in store in terms of ENSO for 2017. Let's have a look at 3 models finally. We're going to start off CFS V2. So this is where we are right now in terms of the CFS V2 forecast. We're just there. The temperature is on the side and the dates are on the bottom of this graph. So essentially we're already back to ENSO neutral very quickly, because it's such a weak signature for La Nina anyway. Very quickly we've moved back to ENSO neutral. Now the forecast going into the spring, that's April just there, is that we're roughly staying around ENSO neutral, albeit moving slightly onto the positive side of neutral. So slightly onto the warmer side of neutral, but still around there. And then you notice that continuing from there into the summer, the model wants to keep things generally just around ENSO neutral again. So it's not really seeing that we're going to El Nino. Certainly isn't taking us down to La Nina. To do that, we'd have to go down there. So I think the chance of going into La Nina through the summer look very remote. Looks like the CFS either wants to have us in an ENSO neutral state, or possibly go very slightly in towards a weak El Nino. But essentially the model wants to keep things around ENSO neutral through the spring and into the summer of 2017. You will notice, however, that within the ensemble, this is the CFS V2 ensemble, each one of these curved lines represents an individual ensemble member. You'll notice that within there are several members of the ensemble that are going for sort of very strong, almost Super Nino type territory through the summer. At the moment, they look like they're outliers, but there are a few of them, so we can't totally discount the possibility. But essentially, it looks like it's ENSO neutral to possibly weak El Nino by the summer. By the way, we've got to get through the spring predictability barrier. People will know really what's going on. Whenever we reach the spring, the models will always struggle to sense where it's going to go afterwards through the summer, then into the autumn, and then eventually into the winter of the following year. So we'll know more when we're out of sort of the spring predictability barrier, which will be around May, June time. So for now, there will be a lot of uncertainty in terms of what's happening in the Euro-Pacific Ocean. That's CFS V2. This is the ECMWF forecast for the ENSO region. Again, this is where we're starting off in January, just around here, so more or less around ENSO neutral again. Now, you see as we go forwards, again, we've got the temperature on the side, we've got the dates along the bottom. As we go forward, you'll see that more or less the trend of the model is to lift things into positive territory. So the overall trend is to go up to there, which again is somewhere around ENSO neutral to very weak El Nino condition. Again, we do have a few outliers that are going up into strong, perhaps even Super Nino territory, but they're not well supported at this stage. And it looks like the chance of going back to La Nina, which would be around here somewhere, is very remote. So again, CFS V2 and the ECMWF looks like we're in agreement by the summer to either be in ENSO neutral on the positive side, on the warmer side, or to be in weak El Nino. The two models look like we're in agreement for that. And finally, we've got the Jamstec IOD from Japan. And again, this one very similar. We've got the dates, we've got the temperature anomaly on the side. The dates are along the bottom of the chart. This is where we're starting off right now with January round ENSO neutral. We're back to ENSO neutral because La Nina was so weak, the signature, at the end of last year. We've very quickly moved back to ENSO neutral. And again, you see the trend of the model. The red line here is the trend of the model. The trend is to carry on around ENSO neutral, gradually lifting the temperature anomalies up through the Euro-Pacific Ocean till we get to around just on the border between ENSO neutral or weak El Nino. And again, you see that we do have one or two outlier members of the ensemble bloom, which are going for sort of moderate El Nino condition, but most of the members of the ensemble bloom are actually around ENSO neutral to just borderline weak El Nino. So essentially, there's no sign that we're going into a strong event either way. It doesn't look like we're going to go to a strong La Nina. That definitely looks like it's off the table. doesn't look like we're going to go to strong El Nino either. It looks like what's going to happen is that we're going to go from sort of borderline La Nina ENSO neutral to borderline El Nino ENSO neutral. Certainly up to the spring anyway, in the early part of the summer. And then beyond that, as I say, we've got to get past the spring predictability barrier before we know more. So that's how things are looking right now in any case. My hunch for where we'll go is that I've got a feeling ENSO or El Nino might take off again. There's no real evidence for that within the model output we're just looking at, but I've got a hunch that if we get through to the summer and the autumn, we might find El Nino starting to take off. If it does, it could mean that we have to think a little bit about a hotter summer, perhaps. But I'm just throwing that one out there for you to consider. As I say, there's not really a great deal of support within those model outputs that we're going to go back to El Nino very quickly anyway. But the way we've warmed up from that weak La Nina already back to ENSO neutral and starting to go a bit warmer in the Eastern Pacific just alerts me to the fact that we might be heading into another El Nino through the middle and then the second half of the year. And I say we look at these events because although they are sort of Southern Hemisphere phenomena, and their main impacts are felt in the Southern Hemisphere and for America and Canada, because we're downstream from America and Canada, they will have a knock-on effect for us. But for us, the effects aren't consistent. So one year's effect from a strong El Nino or La Nina will tend to be a little bit different compared to another year's. But they do definitely have effects on our weather. So that's why we have to keep an eye on what's going on in the Equatorial Pacific Ocean. So I hope you found it interesting. And of course, we'll keep looking throughout the remainder of the year. I say we'll do an ENSO update every month until August. And then from September, we will merge the ENSO updates with the winter updates and look at what's going on pretty much every week from September through to the start of December with those winter updates. This was the second video today. I'm not sure if I mentioned it at the start of the video. So, also did the weekend forecast. You can find that, find the video down on the homepage. And also, there's a written version. You get that bar buttons at the top of the page. So check out weekend forecast if you haven't yet done so. Tomorrow we'll be having a look at some analogues for the spring. And that will also encompass the ENSO idea as well. We'll be looking at springs that follow on from weak La Nina or ENSO neutral. So come back for that tomorrow. And also tomorrow we'll be doing a video looking at the Arctic Oscillation, the North Atlantic Oscillation, the stratosphere over the North Pole, all of that kind of thing as well. So come back for the videos tomorrow. That's all for the first ENSO update of the year. Thanks for watching.